My name is Michael Zhang, and I never expected my grandfather-in-law's old beach house to become the center of a multi-million-dollar family war. But sometimes the most valuable treasures are hidden behind the walls we're told not to look past. The property dispute started 3 months after Grandpa Richard's death. The old beach house in Newport had been a source of family tension for years. A worthless money pit, according to my father-in-law, Robert Sullivan. He'd spent decades trying to convince Grandpa Richard to sell it, arguing that maintenance costs were draining the family fortune. That decrepit shack needs to go, Robert declared at yet another tense family dinner. Now that Dad's gone, we can finally get rid of it and focus on real investments. My wife Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. She knew how much that house meant to me. I'd spent countless weekends there with Grandpa Richard during the 5 years I'd been married to Sarah, helping him catalog his extensive historical research and listening to stories about his days as a maritime archaeologist. Actually, Sarah spoke up. Grandpa specifically said he wanted the beach house preserved. It's in his will. Robert's face darkened. A will that makes no sense. Dividing everything equally was bad enough, but insisting we keep that worthless property? Pure sentiment clouding good business judgment. I thought about Grandpa Richard's last conversation with me just a week before he'd passed. We were in his study at the beach house, surrounded by his collection of maritime maps and artifacts. Michael, he'd said, his voice weak but his eyes sharp as ever, remember what I taught you about patterns? About looking beyond the obvious? I nodded. His lessons about archaeological observation had fascinated me, how small details could reveal hidden histories. The basement wall, he continued, the one with the old shipping map. Sometimes the most valuable things are hidden in plain sight. Promise me you'll remember that. Before I could ask what he meant, Robert had burst in, demanding to discuss selling the house yet again. It was the last private moment I had with Grandpa Richard. Now, 3 months later, Robert was determined to force a sale. He called an emergency family meeting at his downtown law office, surrounded by the trappings of his successful legal career. The maintenance costs are destroying the estate's value, he announced, pulling up spreadsheets. The property taxes alone are ridiculous. We need to sell before it drains everything. But Grandpa's will specifically states, Sarah began. The will can be challenged, Robert cut in. I've already filed the paperwork. Unless someone wants to take full responsibility for the property, including all costs and liabilities, we're selling. The room fell silent. Robert looked triumphant. He knew none of the family members could afford the massive maintenance costs he'd been documenting. I'll take it, I said quietly. Robert's head snapped up. What? I'll take full ownership of the beach house. Transfer all rights and responsibilities to me. Don't be ridiculous, Robert scoffed. On your professor's salary, you can barely afford your apartment. My salary is not your concern, I replied. I've reviewed the property laws. If you want to override the will's preservation clause, you need an unanimous family agreement or one person willing to assume full ownership. I'm offering the latter. Robert's eyes narrowed. Fine, but understand this. You take everything. All costs, all liability, all responsibility. The family estate won't spend another dime on that money pit. Agreed. And you'll need to buy out any potential future claims from other heirs. Say $50,000. Robert? Sarah's mother gasped. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. Robert smiled coldly. Take it or leave it, Professor. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a cashier's check. Already prepared. Shall we sign the papers? Robert's smile faltered slightly. He hadn't expected me to be ready. Hadn't expected me to have resources he didn't know about. My research grants and consulting work paid better than he assumed, and I'd been saving for years. The transfer papers were signed within the hour. Robert made a show of washing his hands of the whole matter, telling everyone how generous he was being, letting me take on this obvious mistake. What he didn't know was that I'd spent those 3 months since Grandpa Richard's death doing more than just grieving. I'd been studying the house's original blueprints, comparing them to modern surveys. I'd been researching the property's history, tracking down records from the 1920s when it was built. And most importantly, I'd been examining that basement wall with a shipping map, looking for the pattern Grandpa Richard had wanted me to see. That night, after the papers were signed, Sarah and I drove to our newly acquired beach house. The salt air felt different somehow. Now it was ours, truly ours. Dad's going to regret this, Sarah said, unlocking the front door. He never understood what Grandpa saw in you. What do you mean? Grandpa knew you'd look deeper, that you'd understand the house's real value wasn't in its real estate potential. I pulled out the ultraviolet light I'd been waiting to use. Speaking of looking deeper, want to help me examine that basement wall? Sarah smiled. Is this about Grandpa's last conversation with you? He wasn't just a collector of artifacts, I explained, heading down the basement stairs. He was a protector of history, and I think he left us a message about exactly what he was protecting. The basement wall looked ordinary in regular light, just an old shipping map showing Newport's maritime trade routes from the 1800s, but under ultraviolet light. Michael, Sarah whispered, are those numbers? I confirmed. And not just any numbers. They're coordinates. We spent the next 3 hours documenting everything the hidden ink revealed. By midnight, we had filled a notebook with measurements, annotations, and possibilities. We'll need specialized equipment, I said finally. Ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging. For what? Sarah asked, though I could tell from her archaeologist daughter's instincts she already knew. Because I smiled. I don't think this basement has a solid back wall, and I think your grandfather left us a map to something that would make your father very, very sorry he gave this house away. As we climbed the stairs to finally get some sleep, my phone buzzed with a text from Robert. Enjoy your crumbling money pit. I thought about the coordinates we discovered, about Grandpa Richard's career as a maritime archaeologist, about his cryptic warnings to look beyond the obvious. Tomorrow we would begin the real work. But tonight, I just smiled, knowing that sometimes the best revenge is letting someone give away something priceless while thinking it's worthless. The ground-penetrating radar confirmed what the ultraviolet coordinates had suggested. There was a significant void behind the basement's back wall, but getting to it required careful precision. One wrong move could damage whatever Grandpa Richard had hidden there. The wall's construction is unusual, Dr. Martinez noted, studying the radar readings. My colleague from the university's archaeology department had been intrigued enough by my findings to come help on a Sunday. See these reinforced sections? They're not structural. They're protective. Sarah and I exchanged glances. We'd spent a week carefully documenting everything, following proper archaeological procedures. Whatever was behind that wall, Grandpa Richard had gone to extraordinary lengths to preserve it. Look at this pattern. I pointed to the thermal imaging display. The temperature variance suggests a climate-controlled space. He built a preservation chamber. Just then, my phone buzzed, another text from Robert. Property tax bill coming due. Enjoying your investment yet? I ignored it, focusing instead on the small anomaly we discovered in the wall's masonry. A slight discoloration that, under ultraviolet light, revealed another set of numbers. It's a sequence, Sarah realized, examining the pattern. Like the combination locks Dad always complained about Grandpa using. Working together, we carefully pressed the discolored bricks in sequence. A faint click echoed through the basement, followed by the whisper of hidden mechanics. The wall didn't just open, it transformed. Sections slid apart with precision engineering, revealing a climate-controlled chamber that would have made any museum envious. My God, Dr. Martinez whispered. The hidden room was a testament to one man's dedication to preserving history. Glass cases lined the walls, each containing carefully documented artifacts. Spanish colonial treasures, Revolutionary War documents, maritime trading records dating back to Newport's earliest days. But the true treasure stood in the center of the room, a complete collection of rare East India Trading Company artifacts, including original maps, ship's logs, and trading documents. Items that major museums had been seeking for decades. There's a letter, Sarah said softly, picking up an envelope marked with our names. Dear Michael and Sarah, if you're reading this, you've proven what I always knew, that true value isn't just in what something is worth, but in understanding why it's worth preserving. This collection represents 40 years of my work as a maritime archaeologist. Items discovered during legitimate expeditions, each properly documented and legally obtained. I could have sold them to museums or private collectors, but I chose to protect them until I found someone who would understand their true significance. The East India Trading Company collection alone is worth millions to the right institutions, but more importantly, it tells a story of our maritime heritage that's never been fully revealed. The documents here could rewrite history books. Michael, your background in archaeology and your patience in understanding patterns makes you the perfect custodian for these artifacts. Sarah, your father never understood that some things are worth more than their immediate market value. I've left complete documentation for each piece, including provenance records and conservation requirements. I've also left contact information for Dr. Catherine Chen at the Smithsonian's Maritime Division. She knows about the collection and can help you decide its best future. Choose wisely, and remember, sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones others are too blind to see. Love, Grandpa Richard. We spent the next week carefully cataloging everything. Dr. Martinez helped us document each piece, verifying Grandpa Richard's records. The collection's estimated value kept growing: $5 million, $8 million, $10 million. Then came the media leak. Los Maritime Turías Yorias Discovery in Newport Beach, Hawaii. The headline exploded across local news, then national. Apparently, one of Robert's associates had seen the archaeological permits we'd had to file and tipped off a reporter. Robert's reaction was predictable and immediate. He showed up at the beach house with his lawyers, demanding entry. "This is fraud," he shouted through the door. "You knew about this when you took ownership." "Actually," I said calmly, opening the door, "I knew there might be something worth investigating. Just like you could have investigated at any time during the past 20 years. The difference is, I paid attention to your father's work. Those artifacts belong to the estate. We'll sue." "No," Sarah interrupted, stepping forward. "They legally belong to the property, which you signed over to us. Complete ownership, remember, your words exactly." Robert's face turned purple. "You manipulated. Like you tried to manipulate everyone into selling." I asked quietly. "The difference is, we valued Grandpa Richard's legacy enough to look deeper. You were too busy seeing only dollar signs to notice what was right in front of you." The legal battle he threatened never materialized. Grandpa Richard's documentation was too thorough, the transfer of ownership too complete. Robert had signed away his rights in his haste to rid himself of what he saw as a worthless burden. 1 month later, we held a press conference with the Smithsonian. Dr. Chen announced a unique partnership. The artifacts would be preserved through a special foundation, with proceeds from their study and exhibition supporting maritime archaeology education. This collection fills crucial gaps in our understanding of colonial maritime trade. Dr. Chen explained to the assembled reporters. Richard Sullivan didn't just collect these artifacts, he protected them for future generations. The Foundation's first grant went to establishing a maritime archaeology program at local universities. Its second funded restoration projects for historical properties along the Newport coast. Robert declined our invitation to the Foundation's opening ceremony, but other family members attended. They watched with growing understanding as historians and archaeologists explained the significance of what Grandpa Richard had preserved. He always said Michael reminded him of himself. Sarah's mother told me afterward, tears in her eyes. Now I understand why. The beach house remains our home. Its basement vault now a secure research facility where scholars come to study the collection. We maintain Grandpa Richard's careful preservation systems, adding modern security while keeping the property's historic character. Last week, a young archaeology student asked me how we'd known to look behind the wall. "We didn't know what we'd find," I explained, "but we knew enough to look deeper than the surface." Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from simply paying attention to the clues others ignore. Robert still won't speak to us, though I occasionally see him driving past the house, looking at the historical landmark plaque that now marks the property. The plaque reads, "The Sullivan Maritime Collection preserved by Richard Sullivan, a testament to the power of looking beyond the obvious." Yesterday, we found another hidden panel, this one in Grandpa Richard's study. Inside was a journal detailing more potential historical sites along the coast. Sarah's already preparing the research permits. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving someone wrong about value, it's preserving something priceless for future generations to learn from. In the end, that's what Grandpa Richard was teaching us all along. The beach house's real treasure wasn't just what was hidden in its walls. It was the lesson that true worth isn't always visible to those too busy counting immediate profits to see the value of preservation. As for that property tax bill Robert was so worried about, the historical preservation grants more than cover it. Sometimes doing the right thing pays in ways money can't measure.